Dear students, welcome to E-Pathashala. I am Dr. Tahira from Gandhigram Rural Institute. I'll be now talking about functional foods and nutraceuticals in management of hypertension. So these days there is a more global market value for functional foods and nutraceuticals. So all the herbs, all the plant materials which has certain bioactive components and which can help in disease prevention are termed as functional foods and nutraceuticals. And there's a lot of therapeutics behind these functional foods and nutraceuticals. So there's a great demand and also challenges that as a researchers or as students of food and nutrition we have to face, and we have to learn more about these bioactive components present in these functional foods and how they help in disease prevention. Learning objectives for this module. Once you complete this module, you can explain the mechanisms by which various functional foods act as antihypertensive agents. Understand the type of foods that has antihypertensive action. So now let's start with what is a functional food. Let's understand what is a functional food. Functional foods are containing the ingredient that is reported to possess any therapeutic effect, and the same is authenticated through animal experiments and human clinical trials are termed as functional foods. So any food that has some therapeutic effect and it can be authenticated that it has that effect only by experiments, then you call them as a functional food. What does the term nutraceutical mean? The word nutraceutical was born from two words, nutrition and pharmaceuticals, in the year 1989. And from that they coined the word nutraceuticals. So it is defined as a food or part of the food that possesses and provides health benefits and used in prevention and treatment of diseases. So when we say a functional food, it may be a food, or as such a food you call, when it has some therapeutic property, you call it as a functional food. When it is a nutraceutical, it is a component that is present in the food act as a nutraceutical by providing health benefits, and it's used in the prevention and treatment of disease. Hypertension is a condition noticed in a person when the force of the flow of blood in the blood vessel is above normal. The normal systolic and diastolic pressure is 120 by 80 mmHg. Hypertension is one of the major risk factors for atherosclerosis, which eventually leads to cardiovascular diseases and stroke. Several clinical studies have reported that maintaining normal blood pressure will reduce the morbidity and mortality associated with CVDs. So thus, a healthy dietary pattern are expected to not only prevent but also treat lifestyle related diseases. Modifications in dietary consumptions can help in preventing or controlling hypertension. So now, as we have seen now, what is functional food, what is nutraceutical, and what hypertension is, and now how these three is correlated and how functional foods can help in reducing blood pressure. Functional foods reduce the blood pressure by different mechanisms such as antioxidant effect, diuretic effect, renin-angiotensin aldosterone system, otherwise simply called as RAS inhibition, NOS production, nitric oxide production. It's a promoting effect. You can see in the figure the foods and its mechanisms of action. We will see the antihypertensive effect of few of the functional foods and nutraceutical components listed here in detail. So the figure indicates that the renin and antioxidant effect diuretic effect, the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system, and NOS production is brought about by different foods which are believed to, or which is called as functional foods and nutraceuticals. So now, before going in detail into the functional foods, let's see how is blood pressure maintained by renin-angiotensin system. This is the common system that is present in the mammalian body, and this is how the blood pressure is regulated. So mammalian blood pressure is regulated by the renin-angiotensin system, which mainly consists of renin and ACE, that is angiotensin converting enzyme. Now, the beginning, renin catalyzes the conversion of angiotensinogen to angiotensin 1. This is a prerequisite step required for the action of angiotensin converting enzymes. Shortly, we will say it as ACE. Angiotensin 1 then is converted to angiotensin 2, a potent vasoconstrictor that maintains normal contractions of blood vessels at optimum rates under physiological conditions. And in turn, aldosterone is that hormone that helps in regulation of blood pressure will be released. Thus, hypertension or the blood pressure is regulated. The disorder of RAS, any disorder leading to some changes in the RAS, can lead to excess levels of ACE and thus excessive constriction of blood vessels, and this leads to elevated blood pressure. So, when left uncontrolled, leads to hypertension, elevated hypertension, or sometimes referred to as severe hypertension, and in turn the patient gets associated cardiovascular problems. Therefore, AC and renin inhibitors can act to reduce the ultimate production of vascular angiotensin 2 in hypertension patients and help to regularize blood pressure. This RAS mechanism is the most common one, as I told you this in the beginning of renin-angiotensin system. It's the common mammalian mode of the hypertension is controlled. Now let's see about the functional foods and nutraceuticals and the mode of its antihypertensive activity. And we will also see few nutraceuticals and functional foods that possess antihypertensive activity. We cannot list everything here, but we will just talk about few foods that help or act as an antihypertensive activity. So before going into the facts about bioactive peptides, let's understand what is the meaning of bioactive substances. Peptides known as ACE inhibitors, I told you earlier, ACE is angiotensin converting enzyme. It is shortly called as ACE. So these ACE inhibitors belong to a group called bioactive substances. The compound must meet two criteria to say it is an bioactive substance. Along with its defined nutritional properties, the product with the active substance in it should possess a measurable biological effect on consumption. The effect must be beneficial to health. So, hope this is clear that when we say a substance is bioactive, it should possess a biological effect, at least some measurable quantity of biological effect when you consume it, and that effect, whatever the biological effect is, it should be beneficial to health. Then you call such compounds as bioactive substances. So let's see now what is bioactive peptides, which is again a group of bioactive substances. Bioactive peptides are proteins produced in the cell in the form of large pre-pro-peptides, which are then split and modified to give active products. Bioactive peptides have been defined as specific protein fragments that have a positive impact on body functions and conditions and may ultimately influence health and play important roles in physiological functions and delay or prevent pathogenesis. So in that case, when you see there are a lot of bioactive peptides, or otherwise called as food peptides, present in the common foods that we consume. So food peptides are very safe and do not produce any adverse side effects after prolonged use and are considered safer than drugs for treatment of hypertension. But anyway, we cannot completely treat hypertension only with functional foods, but they can be an adjunct or an additive for prevention and control of hypertension. So now let's see certain food peptides. So one first we will deal with is milk protein peptides. Proteins present in milk are rich source of bioactive peptides that possess antihypertensive, anti-hypercholesterolemic, anti-thrombotic, immune stimulating, antimicrobial, mineral carrying capacity, and they also act as an opioid. These peptides are inactive within the sequence of parent protein and can be released during gastrointestinal digestion or food processing. Many bioactive peptide fragments can be obtained through hydrolysis of whole milk by digestive enzyme. So thus, a healthy diet is a prerequisite for attaining full benefits of peptides, since it requires an environment that helps for its action in the GI tract, that is the gastrointestinal tract. So now when a food is being consumed, it is being broken down into various nutrients. One of the nutrients is a protein, and these proteins are at long polypeptide chains, and these peptide chains are broken up into tripeptides, dipeptides, and these tri and dipeptides are believed to possess the antihypertensive action. Now let's see how does milk peptides act as antihypertensive agent. The mechanism involved in antihypertensive action of milk peptide is ACE inhibition. So epidemiological studies first noted that prevalence of hypertension among individuals with less milk intake was high compared to people with more milk intake. Milk contains a number of biocomponents that have antihypertensive effect. It includes the minerals calcium, magnesium and potassium. The following points indicate how peptides act as antihypertensive agent. So now, as I told you, the components present in milk are acting as antihypertensive action. So I told you the minerals. So we drink milk just for the minerals. Basically, with children we give milk for the minerals present in it, like calcium, magnesium, potassium. But these minerals are also acting as antihypertensive agents. So let's see what happens with the calcium. Calcium reduces blood pressure via its action to assist weight loss by increasing the fat metabolism. The fat gets hydrolyzed further with the help of calcium, which in turn this helps in reduction of blood pressure. Same way, potassium lowers the blood pressure by alternating its level in frequency with the sodium levels. As we know, whenever sodium increases, potassium decreases. So when potassium lowers blood pressure by alternating its level in frequency with the sodium levels. Then the third is the effect of milk derived peptides was discovered in recent times only. The peptides released from casein or whey proteins via bacterial fermentation. Thus only sour and fermented milk contains these biopeptides. That's what they say. Milk is not the best food for human beings. It's better to drink a fermented buttermilk or a sour milk that is more useful than having milk. But when it is to children, in the terms of minerals, we talk about milk. But when it comes to adult, we talk more about, we recommend a person to take fermented milk, that is in terms of curd, buttermilk. So these peptides are released from the casein or the whey proteins via bacterial fermentation, and these peptides are only present in sour and fermented milk. It was discovered that a single dose of peptides derived from sour milk in powdered form, that is the hydrolysate form, reduced blood pressure in a species of hypertensive rats. Few years later, other studies were carried out and was reported that two specific milk peptides lowered blood pressure by inhibiting angiotensin 1 converting enzyme. The peptides identified by researchers were valine, proline and proline, that is shortly called as VPP, and isoleucine proline, that was shortly formed as IPP, which are just 3 amino acids long. As I told you earlier, when proteins get digested in the body or when it is fermented, the long polypeptide chains are broken down into dipeptides and tripeptides, and now they have identified only these tri and dipeptides possess the antihypertensive action. Now, sour milk contains these peptides, that is VPP and IPP. So, valine, proline and isoleucine, proline. It is also found that the peptides VPP and IPP survived enzymatic digestion and were absorbed into circulation. That was the best part of it, where during digestion they were not lost or they were not further broken down, and they were able to be absorbed into the circulation, and thus they possess this antihypertensive activity by inhibiting the ACE enzymes, that is angiotensin converting enzyme. The inhibition of ACE reduces the production of angiotensin II and thereby lowers blood pressure, protecting against subsequent CVD. As we know, whenever there is hypertension, the other secondary or the causes related or the disease related to hypertension will be something related with cardiovascular diseases. So, taking milk peptides, peptides derived from fermented foods will help in inhibition of ACE, and in turn that helps in the reduces the production of angiotensin II, and it lowers blood pressure, protecting against subsequent cardiovascular diseases. And to just add on to this, some research studies I would like to quote. The research in animals led to several clinical trials in humans to confirm that milk peptides delivered via fermented sour milk drinks or casein or whey hydroxylate tablets were used to prevent and treat hypertension. So, this is about the milk peptides. Now, let's see the other milk products like fermented cheese that has also has a high anti-hypertensive action. So, first they have found these tripeptides in cheese of Swiss origin. The concentration of the isoleucine, proline and valine, proline, the two peptides which possess the antihypertensive activity seems to increase in the course of ripening process. As we know earlier, fermentation helps in these protein hydrolysis and it helps in formation of these tripeptides. So, they said that on ripening process it reached 100 mg per kg in 4 to 7 months. So, similarly, whey fraction of yogurts like product was found to contain a dipeptide tyrosine and proline, which produce a significant antihypertensive effect. Two potent and ACE inhibitory peptides from beta casein, which corresponds to valine, proline, and from kappa casein, which corresponds to isoleucine, proline, were purified from Japanese soft drink called Calpis, made from bovine skim milk fermented with lactobacillus and Saccharomyces. So, these are the other milk products, that is, the fermented milk products that produce these tripeptides which help in overcoming hypertension. So, it is best to consume more of fermented foods that will help us in prevention of hypertension. Now, how does other bioactive components act as antihypertensive agents? So, under that we will first talk about catechins. So, catechins is a very common word these days because all of us are very popular with green tea and black tea, and we say it has lot of phytochemicals, and in every household there is green tea boxes or green tea bags, or whenever they go out they try to get these green tea and say it is very good for health. Of course, it's true, and antihypertensive action of these green tea or black tea is mainly due to its tannin content, and the components in them are the catechins. So, which we will talk about how these catechins can help in reducing blood pressure. The mechanism in which catechins exhibit their antihypertensive action is based on their antioxidant activity and through endothelial nitric oxide synthase activators. The reduction of oxidative stress in the vascular endothelium increases the bioavailability of NO, which enhances the vasodilatory action. T increases the nitric oxide production and helps to lower the blood pressure. The catechins present in green tea act as ACE inhibitors and lowers blood pressure. However, catechins are found to be very effective in people with mild to moderate hypertension rather than in patients with severe conditions. So, it's better to recommend this as a preventive mode rather than giving green tea for a person who has got hypertension. So, drinking green tea can help or guard everyone from getting hypertension. The next component we will see is about GABA. GABA is gamma aminobutyric acid, a kind of amino acids present in many of the foods, and they also possess a type of inhibitory neurotransmitters which are present in the central nervous system such as brain, cerebellum and spinal cord. In the most recent years, GABA has been reported to improve blood flow and metabolism in the brain. It is produced by the brain during sleep and it can also be obtained from food. So when you say it can be obtained from food, we have many sources of GABA which is seen in foodstuffs. Like when you can sprout red rice, sprouting of red rice also gives you, it's a very good source of GABA. And the common food sources are like vegetables, tea and other firm foods. So as I told you, when you sprout brown rice, it increases the GABA content by 10 times more than unsprouted rice. Same way, GABA can also be produced from lactic acid bacteria, from glutamic acid decarboxylase synthesized from bacteria. It is also abundant in pickles, which has undergone lactic acid fermentation product made from plants. But it's not that when we say pickle, it's not that taking the commercial pickles that are available, but we talk about the pickles that are prepared from lactic acid fermentation which has high GABA content. So these are the common foods that contain GABA. Antihypertensive mechanisms of GABA is as follows: an inhibitory effect on the sympathetic nervous system and peripheral sympathetic ganglia, a diuretic effect caused by the inhibition of antidiuretic hormone secretion and angiotensin converting enzyme activity. So this is how GABA helps in or acts as an antihypertensive agent. So this GABA is present in mainly in fermented, that is sprouted rice, tea, and also in some vegetable sources, so in fermented pickles that are mostly fermented from lactic acid bacteria. So they act as a very good source or a nutraceutical component for antihypertensive. Next we will see about stevia. Stevia or stevioside. So stevioside is a component, bioactive component derived from a plant called stevia. So the stevia is a perennial plant of Asteraceae family and it's recognized as a natural sweetness and it's very commonly used in Japan and South Africa. It has also been traditionally used as herbal medicine in South America. A number of physiological activities have been reported, such as improving glycemic control, antihypertensive and antioxidant property and diuretic property. The hypotensive effect of stevioside is carried out by inhibiting calcium influx into blood vessels and in turn lead to vasodilation. Stevioside consumed along with food has an insignificant antihypertensive and antidiabetic effect, and hence this should be taken as a supplement rather than consuming along with any food. So now in the markets we get a lot of these sweeteners, and one among them is the stevia, where they say it is very potential in glycemic control, and also it has a high antioxidant activity and a diuretic property. So what they say is, consuming stevia, you can't just consume stevia along with some food, or it can, now they say you can make supplements, you can make sweets, desserts for diabetic patients using stevia. But rather than making any desserts or consuming it along with some other food, if you just take it as such, maybe as a supplement, maybe 1 gram or 2 gram, that may be helpful in, but anyway it's a natural sweetener. Sesame. Next is we will see about sesame. It's a kind of lignin compound contained in sesame seeds. In recent years, a variety of bioactivities have been reported, such as antioxidant and cholesterol lowering. Sesame are also reported to be liver protective, and they have many liver protective effects. And sesame is also known for its hypotensive effect. However, there are many unclear points regarding the mechanism of its action, but several experiments, animal experiment as well as human experiments, suggest that the hypotensive action of sesamin is involved in the vasodilating effect caused by the NOS production, enhancement, and oxidative stress reduction in blood vessels due to its antioxidant effect present in it, which helps in its action as an antioxidant. So thus that antioxidant effect may also be useful in about a vasodilating effect and then in turn antihypertensive action. So the next component, a nutraceutical component that we would like to talk about, is EPA and DHA, which is very common terminologies that are being used now in advertisements. Anyway, when you go and talk about fatty acids, the first fatty acids we talk about is the EPAs and DHAs, which are omega-3 fatty acids, and they are mostly the main source of these EPA and DHA are from fish. They help in overcoming coronary artery disease and other related CVDs. So human studies have indicated that diet supplementation with fish oil more than 3 grams per day can lead to reduction in clinically relevant blood pressure in individuals with untreated hypertension. That is, what they say is, if you consume fish oil, it is useful in patients who have been identified clinically as hypertensive patients. Components exhibiting this hypertensive effect of fish oil have been reported to be the EPA and DHA, which are nothing but the omega-3 fatty acids that are found in abundance in fish and other marine sources. EPA may lower the blood pressure by altering the activities of membrane sodium transport systems and increase in eNOS expression and decrease in oxidative stress and altered biosynthesis of eicosanoids. So that's about the EPA and DHA. Not only pressure, but this EPA and DHA helps in prevention of cardiovascular disease, cancer, all sorts of degenerative disease. The next compound we will look into, garlic preparations contain a wide variety of organosulfur compounds, of which allicin is most recognized and responsible for characteristic garlic odor. So these allicin is usually referred to as ACE inhibitor, and also its antioxidant activity also helps in controlling blood pressure. Then we have another compound called as quercetin. It is onion. It is present in onion as a vegetable used in variety of dishes throughout the world, and it is rich in phenolic compounds which has an high antioxidant effect, and in turn it also acts as an ACE inhibitor. The next compound we will look into is flavonoids. It's the largest group of polyphenolic compounds found in higher plants like tea, wine, apple, onion, grapes, and oranges are foods in flavonoids. The synthesis of flavonoids in higher plants also occur through malonic acid pathways, and there are different types of subgroups of flavonoids which help in overcoming degenerative diseases. And these flavonoids are reported to act as ACE inhibitors and regulate blood pressure. Then we look into the next compound called anthocyanins. Anthocyanins are flavonols, have saturated C ring with hydroxyl group, and there are 4 major anthocyanins which act as ACE inhibitors, and the one which is commonly talked about is the one present in the cocoa and other components. Then next we have a marine source, seaweeds, which is a very richest and promising source of bioactive primary and secondary metabolites. The algae synthesizes a variety of compounds such as carotenoids, terpenoids, xanthophylls, chlorophylls, and many polysaccharides like agar-agar, carrageenan, and proteoglycans and alginates. And the research says that few seaweeds like wakame, which has a high antihypertensive activity, and they are also acting as ACE inhibitors. And there are some pictures that are shown below with these seaweeds. End of this module, I would like to summarize what we have studied in this module, that is on functional foods in management of hypertension. So it's not just that food what we eat should be limited to supply the source of energy and other nutrients alone, but it should be helpful, or it should help to maintain the functions of a body. So there are a lot of, as we have seen throughout the class, that there's a lot of herbs, lot of plant materials, lot of animal foods that has bioactive peptides, and the components present in these foods are very suitable for regulation of blood pressure. The protein sources that act as ACE inhibitors can be isolated and used in formulas that could provide health benefits, because as we saw earlier, that hypertension and cardiovascular disease are increasing in an exponential rate, and when you see even young children are suffering from cardiovascular disease, and in turn adult reproductive age people have hypertension, that too from moderate to severe hypertension. So when we are going to use lot of drugs and other chemical components, that may even again cause certain other diseases. So it's better to fall or to trust on the herbal and plant sources and animal sources, which can act as functional foods and nutraceuticals in prevention or control of hypertension. But anyway, however, we cannot just rely only on them when the condition is very severe. So we can use these functional foods and nutraceuticals as a substitute to drugs, and it can be used for prevention. But you can't just solely rely on these foods. But anyway, for prevention and control, these nutraceuticals will be very useful and beneficial.